The story begins by introducing the best top-secret military squad in South Korea, Squad 709, renowned for its special missions. The only way to be promoted within this elite squad is through a survival duel. Every member must fight until only one remains. Tradition dictates that only one participant can move up the ranks. One day, a soldier emerged who left the entire squad out of service, injuring them so severely that they were left recovering for 448 weeks. This soldier, known later as Madman, due to his psychopathic demeanor in combat, terrified the other squad members. His name was Kim Ji-yuk. Due to his fearsome reputation, he was transferred by the squad commander, but after similar incidents, he was prematurely discharged. Although his legend persisted, the secret of his deeds eventually became known to the public. 3 years later, in a large office building, we see our main protagonist working at his desk for a company. Someone throws a tissue at him, hitting him in the face. It was his manager. The manager sarcastically asks if he thinks he's in a hotel and tells him to focus on his work, continuously throwing tissues at him. The employee finally looks up and tells the manager it's unnecessary to keep throwing things at him. Realizing these were the manager's used tissues, he says that there's no trash can near his desk and asks him to take them away. The manager, referring to him as Mr. Ji-yuk, insists he does it. Angered by the insult, Ji-yuk picks up his phone and messages an anonymous community of office workers, typing that his manager crossed a line by throwing dirty tissues at him while he was working overtime. Someone replies, questioning how a manager could do such a thing, especially without helping at all. Ji-yuk responds that if he didn't need the money, he would teach his manager a lesson and quit. He thinks about how his manager doesn't even have the right to treat him this way since he's not the one paying his salary. Despite his frustration, Ji-yuk realizes he must endure this. Lifting his pen, he briefly entertains the thought of killing his manager. Just then, a random notification appears on his phone, intriguing him. It mentions a puppet project, offering a chance to stop being a slave to capitalist society. Suddenly, he feels something strange. A screen appears in front of him with a message that his registration is complete, and he hears a mysterious sound, P.099 tester verification connection completed. Confused, Ji-yuk tries to take off his glasses but realizes a strange wire connects them to his head. A warning message states that if the glasses are not worn for over 60 seconds, a severe electric shock will be administered. He can't believe it but finds he can't remove them. These are the same glasses he's been wearing for a long time, so what's going on? Someone calls his name, Mr. Ji-yuk. It's a lady from his company named Suyeon. She asks if he's okay. Wearing his glasses, Ji-yuk tries to explain about the wire, but another warning appears, stating that if he shares any information about the glasses, he will receive a severe electric shock. Instead, he tells her he's fine and there's no problem. Suyeon is relieved and asks if he's free after work today. Just then, the manager enters and asks what they're doing, suggesting he join them to improve the mood. He tells Suyeon that Ji-yuk has to stay late, so why don't they go together? Ji-yuk sits back down, frustrated. The manager tells Suyeon not to pay attention to people like Ji-yuk, who have to work overtime due to their incompetence, and teases Ji-yuk about his pride. Suyeon returns to her desk, and Ji-yuk thinks the manager believes he's staying quiet because he has no pride, but he's doing it to maintain his social appearance. He realizes his biggest concern isn't the manager's insults, but the strange occurrences involving his glasses. Suddenly, a voice in his head announces, P.099, Kim Ji-yuk, age 28, job, office worker. The voice continues, stating it will soon inform him about his mission, and begins analyzing the people around him. Ji-yuk looks at his manager, and a scanning progress bar appears on his glasses screen. The manager, noticing Ji-yuk's stare, asks why he's looking at him like that. Toggle options appear on the screen, revealing the manager's name, Choi Joo-heek, and indicating he has been selected for the mission. The mission is for Ji-yuk to tell the manager not to curse at him. The voice also informs him that if he fails to succeed with his mission, a penalty will be applied. The manager then says to come with him to talk on the rooftop. Ji-yuk, still confused about the mission and the penalty, suddenly sees another notification on his glasses. A time limit for the mission of 10 seconds, with a countdown starting. Lost in his thoughts, Juyuk wonders if this was some kind of device created by the company, if they were testing it on the staff, and if it was written in the contract and he just didn't read it. The countdown reaches 0, and a notification appears that the penalty will be applied. Juyuk sees on his glasses screen that he has lost 50% of the money in his bank account. He pulls out his phone and checks his account details, confirming that he has indeed lost 50% of his money. Enraged, he screams and stands up from his chair. Other employees wonder what has happened to him. Hearing the scream, the manager drags him outside the office and asks if he is listening to him or not. Juyuk apologizes, and the manager lights his cigarette and says that he doesn't like people like Juyuk. He explains that he doesn't know if Juyuk is just bluffing because he works out, but the reason he keeps doing this to him is because he is always too lazy and has a loser attitude. The manager wants to make it clear that he is not avoiding teaching Juyuk a lesson because he is scared. It is because he doesn't want to dirty his hands with people like him. The manager also tells Juyuk to say that he is filth. Juyuk thinks that if he wants to have money to live, he has to hold on and suddenly apologizes to the manager. Suddenly, Suyin appears and asks Juyuk why he is holding himself back. She mentions that they were born at a time when it was hard to even afford a house by working their whole lives. They work hard every day for a company that overworks them to death. She suggests to Juyuk that he needs to learn how to fight against this slaving world. She also reveals that she has recorded the conversation between Manager Choi and Juyuk. Suyin tells Juyuk that it is not him who should be apologizing. Manager Choi, confused about what she is doing, tries to grab the recording from Suyin. As he moves his hand toward her, he asks if she is going to erase it. Afraid, Suyin suddenly feels relieved when Juyuk grabs Manager Choi's hand. Manager Choi, confused about what Juyuk is doing, angrily asks if they are both serious about this and demands that Juyuk let go. Suddenly, Juyuk's glasses screen displays a notification indicating that aggressive actions and words from the selected subject have been detected. In response, Juyuk tells Manager Choi that he should not relax his hand if he intends to throw a punch. Juyuk then receives a mission from the anonymous voice, and a toggle appears on his glasses, instructing him to hit the person who has verbally abused him on Adam's apple for a reward of a 200% return rate. Seeing this, Juyuk tells the manager that he has endured most of the things he has done to him, but the manager keeps repeating these actions. Manager Choi becomes more aggressive and successfully loosens his hand from Juyuk's grip, throwing a punch at him. However, Juyuk dodges it, chokes Manager Choi's neck, and tells him that his mouth does not smell good, so he should shut up. He then pushes Manager Choi, causing him to fall to the ground. Juyuk asks Suyin if she can do him a favor, and she says yes. Juyuk asks her to pretend that she did not see anything from now on. Juyuk receives a notification that his mission has been accomplished and he will be rewarded for his success. He sees on his glasses that he got a 200% return rate and becomes happy. Manager Choi, still confused, asks Juyuk how he dares to hit his boss. Juyuk receives another notification that there is no change in the aggressive attitude of the subject. He receives another mission: teach the subject a lesson with a reward of a 500% return rate. Juyuk wonders who is behind assigning these missions to him, but it does not matter anymore. He realizes that for the first time since joining the company, he is finally doing something he enjoys. Hearing this, Manager Choi stands in a fighting posture and tries to punch Juyuk, but Juyuk grabs his punch and smiles. Using his muscular strength, he grabs Manager Choi's neck, chokes him, and then collides the manager's head with the ground. Manager Choi loses consciousness, and Juyuk receives a 500% return. Seeing this, Juyuk becomes even happier. He loosens his shirt tie and wonders if they are going to hand out so much money so easily. His account balance becomes 1.7 billion won. In another scene, we see Juyuk during his job interview. The interviewer asks Juyuk to share his ambitions for the job application. Juyuk replies that he has an exceptional ability to complete tasks, describing himself as an individual who flawlessly completes the assigned tasks. Back to the story, after knocking down Manager Choi, Juyuk reflects that he had tried to live an ordinary life like everyone else. Juyuk smiles and muses about money duplicating itself. Since the mysterious missions began, he has completed many tasks that resulted in accumulating a significant amount of money. In just 3 days, he managed to make 580 million won. Standing on the building's roof, he laughs about his newfound wealth, realizing he is now rich. Suddenly, Jiyuk spots a drone in the sky. The drone drops a box for him, and a voice announces that P099 has passed the test. Jiyuk opens the box and finds a loan ticket inside. The voice continues, stating that test passers will proceed to the main mission. Jiyuk's upcoming mission is to gather 1 billion won within 7 days. Confused, Jiyuk listens as the voice explains that if a participant cannot gather 1 billion won within the period, they cannot proceed to the next stage and all the money will be reset. Jiyuk returns to his office and sits in a chair, contemplating how to gather 1 billion won in 7 days. He checks his bank balance and sees he is short of 420 million won. He holds the loan ticket and ponders its significance. Flipping the ticket, he reads the instructions, which indicate that the ticket allows a loan of 100 million per use. Jiyuk realizes that he has too little information and no clear understanding of the mission. He also wonders about the origin of the glasses, questioning if they were made by the company. Suddenly, he notices Manager Choi, whose entire body is shaking. Jiyuk calls out to him. Manager Choi, filled with fear, wonders if it is too late to pretend he did not hear. He has been avoiding Jiyuk these days. Jiyuk approaches Manager Choi and whispers in his ear that he has a question. Manager Choi, terrified, tries to scream, but Jiyuk covers his mouth and demands that he just answer his question. Jiyuk asks if Manager Choi knows if the glasses were custom-made by the company. Manager Choi, shaking his head, indicates he doesn't know. Jiyuk, skeptical, activates a lie detector, causing Manager Choi to become even more frightened. Manager Choi, clasping his hands, insists that he truly doesn't know. Judging by his response, Jiyuk believes he is not lying. Jiyuk then asks if he has ever seen similar glasses at the company. Manager Choi replies no. Jiyuk concludes that he has been tricked into thinking the glasses were provided by the company. He then receives a notification on his glasses and gives a creepy smile, deciding that he should leave work early today. The notification indicates that the game begins in 30 minutes nearby. Jiyuk leaves the office, telling Manager Choi that he has something to take care of, and instructs him to handle everything that is left. When Manager Choi mentions he has plans, Jiyuk retorts that if he doesn't want to get chopped, he should work overtime. The scene shifts to a construction site where the game will begin. Jiyuk arrives and wonders if this is the place indicated on his glasses. His glasses indicate that a contest among participants will begin, and Jiyuk is unaware that others will join the game. The objective is for the person holding the money bag to retain it until the end to win. Jiyuk sees a bag in front of him, walks closer, and wonders if this is what they are talking about. He opens the bag and finds it filled with cash, surprised at how blatantly it was placed there. Suddenly, the game rules appear on his glasses. A participant holding the money bag who gets it stolen loses an amount equal to the amount in the bag, and the remaining time is 10 minutes. Seeing this, Jiyuk becomes happy and thinks that if he keeps it for 10 minutes, he will get 300 million won. The game countdown starts. Jiyuk holds the bag, gives a weird facial expression, and says he will have to defend it with his life. Suddenly, 3 guys with weapons approach. One of them tells Jiyuk that he shouldn't grab the bag so soon. A blonde-haired guy says Jiyuk is a newbie playing the game for the first time. Another guy wearing a wool hat says Jiyuk is going to have a good experience. They don't want to receive a murder penalty, so they tell him to calmly leave the bag and go. Jiyuk, confused, realizes they are participants too and says he has no intention of leaving the bag, challenging them to try to steal it. The 3 guys laugh at what Jiyuk just said. The blonde-haired guy asks if Jiyuk understands the situation. Jiyuk replies that there's nothing to understand and suddenly gives a creepy smile, saying he just has to beat them. One of the guys says Jiyuk has lost his mind because of greed for money. The guy with a baseball bat asks if Jiyuk knows who they are. Jiyuk retorts, asking who they are and if they know who he is. Hearing this, the guy with the baseball bat runs toward him and tries to hit him, but Jiyuk uses the bag as a shield and stops the attack. Jiyuk slaps the guy's face with such intensity that he falls, surprising the other 2. Jiyuk says that if all the participants are at this level, it might be easier than he thought. The other two guys split up and go to opposite sides. Juyuk remarks that they seem to have some sort of teamwork. They both run toward him, threatening to see if his mouth runs even after being stabbed. Juyuk kicks the ground hard, causing dust to fly and temporarily blind one of them. On the other side, the blonde guy runs toward him and tries to stab him, but Juyuk dodges and stops all attacks. Juyuk responds that this is not how to use a dagger. Frustrated, the guy uses all his energy to attack Juyuk, thinking he successfully stabbed him. However, Juyuk blocks the attack with the bag handle and cuts the knife into 2 pieces. Confused, the guy is then knocked down by Juyuk with the bag. Juyuk tells them he is an ordinary Special Forces veteran. He sees the guy who was temporarily blinded standing up and says he has a question. The guy asks what it is. Juyuk asks if he knows who is running the game. The guy replies that he doesn't know. He shows a handband and says he just received the device and participated. After some time, a bunch of other guys arrive. Seeing this, Juyuk smiles and says, "Now that things have turned out like this, come at me, all of you." He then gives a creepy smile and adds that it doesn't even matter. It has been a while since he got the chance to warm up. All the participants, driven by the prospect of winning 300 million won, rush toward him, saying they need to defeat him. Seeing this, Juyuk taunts them, saying, "You want to catch me?" He then strikes each participant who comes closer with the bag. Each hit causes the participant to lose 300 million won. Observing this, the other participants who are not attacking become afraid, realizing that getting hit by the bag even once means losing 300 million won. Juyuk taunts them, asking why they are not coming. One of them replies that the risk is too great. Juyuk then asks if he should come to them and begins walking toward them. One participant yells, "Don't come any closer. Throw something and stop him." A bunch of participants lift some rocks, thinking that if they attack from a distance, they will win. However, all the rocks thrown at Juyuk are stopped by the bag. Seeing this, one participant exclaims that it doesn't work, and Juyuk smashes his head with the bag, causing him to lose 300 million won and go bankrupt. Witnessing this, all the participants become even more afraid, and 2 masked guys are confused. Juyuk asks who wants to get hit for 300 million won. One participant replies that he is not going to do that and decides to give up. Another participant points out that giving up means a 100 million won loss, but it is still better than getting hit and losing 300 million won and going bankrupt. Some participants run away, while some remain. Juyuk then addresses those still there, saying they are going to do it until the end. One of them states that they have nowhere to go back to anyway, and another mentions having a 900 million won debt. Juyuk tells them to shut up and bring it on. They all attack him simultaneously, but he manages to beat all of them. A drone is continuously watching him. The guy with the mask looks a little afraid. Juyuk comments that his clothes are messed up now. The game timer stops at 0, and Juyuk still has the bag in his hand. A message shown in his goggles indicates that the mission is accomplished and he has acquired 300 million won. Juyuk smiles and says he can buy new clothes. Another notification appears, stating that the owner of the money bag has been decided and all participants are requested to disband. Juyuk leaves with the money bag, leaving the participants in bloodshed behind. After he is gone, a girl standing against a wall says, "That participant won't be able to last long. Don't you think so, mister?" A man in the shadows behind her replies that although Juyuk is pretty special, he draws too much attention and has no idea how dangerous that is. In the next scene, Juyuk reflected on how every day used to be the same. A daily life of working without knowing what to live for, always returning to a dark, empty house, and passing out from exhaustion. However, today was different. He was staying in the Sigrel Hotel, where the bill for one night in a 20 million won suite room was extravagant. The money he would normally need decades to earn, he had made in just 4 days. Sitting in his hotel room, he thought about how exciting it was. His account balance was 580 million won, and he had 300 million won in cash. He punched the table, wondering if this was truly living. Suddenly, someone entered his room. It was a girl from room service. She informed him that this was the room service he had requested and brought a special A++ beef steak cooked by a Michelin 3-star chef. Juyuk lifted a piece of food with a fork and put it in his mouth, his expression showing surprise. The room service girl asked him how it was and if it was to his liking. Juyuk smiled and said it was delicious. The room service girl then removed her wig, revealing her identity as the girl seen earlier. She questioned Juyuk's recklessness and whether he wasn't nervous at all. Juyuk greeted her, and she was surprised by his reaction. She inquired if he was a participant and how he could be so careless. Juyuk revealed that he knew from the beginning that she had been following him since the construction site. He turned his face in another direction and asked if she was accompanied by someone, revealing a man in the shadows. The man remarked that Juyuk had allowed them to follow him despite knowing everything. Juyuk responded that he didn't know why they followed him, but they didn't seem dangerous. As he continued eating his food, he mentioned that he needed someone to ask about the missions anyway and that he had a lot of questions. The man accused Juyuk of trying to extract information from him. Juyuk replied that it was something like that. The man smiled and said he also wanted to ask Juyuk something. They all sat at the same table, and the man first asked Juyuk how he got involved in the missions. Juyuk replied that, just like them, he participated in the missions after receiving a device and had done a test mission too. The man, curious, asked why there was no device on Juyuk's wrist. Juyuk responded that there wasn't a rule stating the device had to be on his wrist and wondered if there was any need to tell them about his glasses. The girl was surprised and asked if the device was on Juyuk's ankle, suggesting he might be familiar with electronic anklets. Juyuk said it was his turn to ask a question and inquired if the man knew how to remove the device. The man asked Juyuk how much he would price his freedom. Juyuk, puzzled, asked what he was talking about. The man replied that 2 billion won was the price set for freedom and explained that until they paid those people 2 billion won, the device would never come off. Juyuk asked if those people were the operators. The man confirmed, calling them the ones who created that hell and the actual rulers of the dark web. He added that rumors said they were holding tens of billions of dollars in illicit funds. In the hell they created, participants struggled with missions and games, fell into debt with loan tickets, went bankrupt, and eventually got dragged somewhere from which no one had returned. Juyuk asked why the man was telling him all this. The man explained that he needed to find out what kind of person Juyuk was. He asked Juyuk if freedom or money was more important to him. Juyuk replied that it was an obvious question and smiled, saying he could just buy his freedom after making 2 billion won. The man realized that money seemed more important to Juyuk and asked if he was confident he could win any mission. The man pressed his finger on his device and suggested they play a simple game. A notification appeared on Juyuk's glasses that P002 was requesting a private random game and asked if he would accept. Juyuk, thinking it might be a test, accepted the challenge since he wasn't one to avoid a match. His goggles notified him to confirm his opponent's information. Confused, he realized it was one of the functions of his glasses. He saw that his opponent, Goo-Woon Mo, was ranked third among all participants, with a record of 14 wins and only 1 loss, and assets totaling 4.8 billion won. Juyuk felt slightly afraid of this information. Another warning appeared that the match was starting and he couldn't give up. Woon Mo was excited, looking forward to seeing what kind of game it would be. Juyuk thought that once it started, he couldn't stop halfway. He said to hold on, but Woon Mo replied it was too late as the roulette had already started. A random game appeared on the screen, revealing it was a double dice game. The rules were simple. The player with the highest final dice score wins. The first rule stated that if the 2 dice did not match, the higher number of pips would be counted towards the player's score. The second rule was that if the pips of the dice were the same, they would be multiplied and counted as the player's score. Additionally, if one dice rolled a 1 and the other a 6, the player would automatically win. The girl opened a case, revealing many chips inside. She explained that each chip was worth 10 million won, and that both players would start with 88 chips based on their assets. Woon Mo remarked that it was great the game was so simple. The white dice would be rolled and revealed simultaneously, while the black dice could be revealed by lifting the cup after betting. Juyuk wondered aloud if this was a game of luck. Woon Mo confirmed this but asked, considering how calm Juyuk was, if he was confident in his luck. Juyuk screamed inside his mind that his life epitomized bad luck. As a child, he never got an answer right by rolling a pencil, and he never won a lottery number. He had never benefited from luck in his life, but somehow he ended up with all that fortune, making 880 million won in just 3 days. He thought that if it was his current self, he could turn this crisis into an opportunity. Suddenly, he punched the table and threw the dice, rolling a 1. Jiuk was surprised and wondered what Woon Mo's number was. Woon Mo had rolled a 2 on his white dice. Jiuk thought it wasn't over yet, as it depended on the second dice in the cup. Woon Mo then bet 100 million won. Jiuk was astonished that Woon Mo was betting 100 million won with that hand. He had no choice. If he gave up the game, he would lose all his possessions. He also bet 100 million won. The girl then revealed the second dice. Woon Mo had rolled a 3 on his black dice, making his higher number of dice a 3, giving him 3 points. Jiuk was slightly happy as it was lower than he thought, and he could win with a 4, 5, or 6. The girl revealed Jiuk's black dice, and he got 1, losing 100 million won. Jiuk was surprised and thought that since he got rid of his bad luck in the first round, things would be different from the second round. However, they played many rounds and Jiuk lost back-to-back, losing 500 million won. In the final round, the girls announced they would start. They both rolled their dice, and Jiuk got a 6, while Woon Mo got a 1. Jiuk was happy, thinking he finally got it. But suddenly, Woon Mo offered Jiuk a chance to win everything. Jiuk was confused and wondered if Woon Mo was out of his mind or confident he would get a 6. Jiuk had already checked, and there was no problem with the dice and cups. It was impossible to manipulate them. Jiuk bet everything. The girl revealed the second dice, and Woon Mo had rolled a 6. Jiuk thought that if he knew what kind of person Woon Mo was, he would never have accepted the game. A legendary gambler, while Jiuk was simply his prey. Jiuk lost everything, all 880 million won, with tears in his eyes. Woon Mo stood up and remarked that it had been fun and suggested they meet again. He handed Jiuk a card, saying that if Jiuk found something more important than money, he should come find him. The next day, a dinner was held at a restaurant where all the company staff were present. They all sat at the same table, and someone commented that it had been a while since they had a get-together. The employees cheered, clinking their drinks and expressing their thanks. Manager Choi noticed Jiuk drinking incrementally and angrily, his face showing clear signs of anger. Choi wondered why Jiuk had been frowning since he arrived at work that morning and why he was still acting that way at the company dinner. Suddenly, Jiuk lifted his head, and Manager Choi quickly looked away, thinking that he didn't know what had happened but would beat up anyone who messed with him. At that moment, someone appeared in front of Jiuk, asked his name, and added that it was a company dinner, but he didn't look good, asking if there was a problem at work. Jiuk's glasses indicated that the person was President Baek Deok Man, ignoring the president. Jiuk continued drinking. Manager Choi, worried about the situation, stood up to explain, but the president stopped him and suggested to Jiuk that they go outside for a bit. They both left the table. A female employee commented that Jiuk was acting pretty strange. Another male employee noted that since the president had been drinking, it looked like they might have to go home early. A female employee sitting near Suyun mentioned she heard something went wrong with Jiuk's investment, judging by his expression. Suyun reassured them that everything should be fine as the president wasn't drunk yet. Another girl added that the president was a nice person when he wasn't drunk.